No, I won't be the first person to cover this, and I hope that I'm not the last. I hope that people are taking a moment to share these videos and share information around just how mind-bogglingly shady Electronic Arts has been. Now, a patent, I suppose you could say, was leaked, but they are public records that EA had filed for many years ago in 2016, then reaffirmed, I think, in 2018, has leaked. And I think the original investigation came out of the FIFA community because the FIFA community has an issue where there are scripting, momentum, dynamic difficulty adjustment sliders, meaning people have long speculated in the FIFA community that there are weird things that happen in the game that not only makes the game more difficult or easier for people, which can be a good thing, but it also incentivizes people to buy more microtransactions, to buy more packs, to get a better team. And that is where everything falls apart for me. Now, if you don't know what like a difficulty or a like dynamic difficulty adjustment is, I think it can be best described as in a story. So like I play some normie games. I play MLB The Show. It's a baseball game. And as you play more games, as you get better at pitching, pitching becomes more difficult to do. This is also true of hitting. And as if you improve to a certain point and then you start losing, the game eases up on you a little bit. So essentially it's always trying to provide you a good game, because essentially if you're blowing out the other team nonstop, you don't want to ever play the game. You'll get sick and tired of it. Or if you're losing all the time, likewise, you're going to get sick of that as well. So the ability is actually really well designed. Unfortunately, what it's being used for is disgusting, and I hope that you share this out. Essentially, the abstract of this, and I'm just going to look at a few paragraphs in this piece which refer to how they use dynamic difficulty to maximize monetization, meaning if people rage quit, for example, they'll make it easier on them. They also have customer clusters of people who are most likely to purchase microtransactions. So the question is, are they making it more difficult on people who they identify as whales? I'm guessing probably yes. Embodiments of the system presented herein may perform automatic granular difficulty adjustment. In some embodiments, the difficulty adjustments is undetectable by a user. Further embodiments of the system disclosed herein can review historical user activity data with respect to one or more video games to generate a game retention prediction model that predicts an indication of an expected duration of gameplay. So they look at your history and they try to make their best guess on, how to keep you around in the game. The game retention prediction model may be applied to a user's activity data and determine an indication of the user's expected duration of gameplay. Based on the determined expected duration of gameplay, the difficulty level of the game may be automatically adjusted. There are a lot of concerns around this because in PvE situations, okay, I love this, but does this happen in PvP as well? Like, are there difficulty sliders in Apex Legends where a worse player is getting a bigger hitbox on the opponent because EA doesn't want people to quit the game? I mean, I would think so, right? However, there are some shocking paragraphs in here. From 31, further embodiments of the system presented herein can adjust the difficulty level of the video game substantially in real time based on at least one part due to the user's skill level, which and whether the user is successfully completing challenges within the game. However, the present disclosure is not limited as such. For example, the difficulty level of video game may be adjusted based on at least in part user preferences, which may not correspond to their ability. So they'll change the game to try and make you happy, which again seems like a good thing, but when you tie it to monetization, it becomes extremely nefarious. For example, some users may prefer to play video games at the most difficult settings regardless of whether they are successful at completing that game or objectives they're in. By tracking user actions with respect to playing a video game, the difficulty level of a video game can be adjusted to match a particular user's preference and or skill level. Essentially, long gone are just setting the difficulty levels. They're also collecting your historical data as a gamer and trying to figure out in real time how to best monetize you. If you look at paragraph, let's see. So there are some paragraphs here that I think are worth discussing. If you look at, in some cases, the video game 112 may include a user interaction history repository, 116. The user interaction history repository may store data on the information relating to the user's interaction with the video game. This user interaction information or data may include any type of information that can be used to determine a user's level of engagement. For example, some non-limiting examples of the user interaction information may be relating to actions taken by the user within the game, a measure of the user's progress within the video game, and whether a user was successful performing specific actions within the video game or completing particular objectives during the video game. Now, just hold on now. It looks at how long it took the user to complete the particular objectives, how many attempts it took the user to complete the particular objective, how much money was spent with respect to the video game, which may include one or both of the amount of money spent to obtain access to the video game. By the way, that's just the purchase price, right? And the amount of money spent with respect to the video game, exclusive of money spent to obtain access to the video game, how frequently the user accesses a video game, and how long the user plays for it. We're talking about the cost of the game and your microtransaction history from how I understand it. Yikes. There are several references in this document to real-world cash spending, monetization habits. So essentially, EA is keeping a history, a detailed history, in paragraphs referencing 112, 174, and 140 are definitions. If we look for the 174 reference, that one is even crazier. Actually, there's more here in the 112 section. A play frequency of player playing the video game, 112, a frequency of using particular optional game elements. For example, available boosts, level skips, in-game hits, power-ups, and the like. The amount of real money, for example, US dollars, European euros, spent purchasing in-game items for the video game, and the like. Further, in some cases, the historical data may include data related to the video game, such as one or more seed values used by users who play the game. Additional examples of data released to the video games may be received as part of historical data. I mean, this is nuts. So essentially, without going all the way through this, which I suggest you do, and I'll link this in the patent images at the Google API thing, because the whole thing is pretty eye-opening. It talks about if you try to complete a jump in the game and you fail and you fail and you fail and you fail, well, if they identify you as somebody who is going to likely rage quit or you don't play games for a long time, it's going to automatically make the game easier for you so you spend more time in it. It also knows the amount of money you spend in other games and in your historical microtransaction revenue. Think about this. Think about how evil this could be. Let's say, and obviously they know this data, right? So let's say they know that you are the type of person who purchases microtransactions when the goings get tough. Wouldn't you think EA is going to use that to make the game hard on you, to incentivize you? You know, there's that 2-3%, we call them whales, where they know that you're just going to buy. You have no impulse control. You've got a ton of expendable income. So you purchase microtransactions at a high rate. They're going to make the game difficult on you to make you purchase more microtransactions. If you're the type of person that kind of eventually buys them, but aren't very good at the game, they're going to make the game easier on you just to make sure that they get their money, which is the insanity of it all. This whole thing reads like just a creepy creepy. How can we maximize ripping off our customers? Now, I will say that difficulty sliders, again, are something that I support because I like that dynamic range. Sometimes when I come back to a video game after a while, get my butt kicked, it'd be nice to ease in. But this whole document talks about all sorts of insanity. If you look at this, in some cases, adjusting the difficulty setting for a video game may include changing configuration values. They adjust a defined set of features in a video game. Alternatively, the difficulty configuration system may determine configuration settings based on at least in part evaluation of your specific skills of the user as determined from the recent user interaction data. For example, it may be determined that the user is failing in a number of objectives in a game because the user has trouble timing jumps. If the user is the type of a user who will stop playing a game when the user has trouble completing objectives as determined by the user cluster associated with the user, the difficult configuration system may generate a config file for capabilities of playable character in the video game to make it an easier time to jump. For example, by allowing the character to jump farther. In contrast, another user that does not have a problem timing jumps but trouble aiming a weapon, the difficulty configuration system may generate configuration values that make it easier to hit your objectives by making the hit area of a weapon larger. In some cases, both of these changes may be made without the users realizing the game has been modified. What about... Okay, so that's why the FIFA community is outraged. There's a lot of money in FIFA. Okay, there's a lot of money in those FIFA packs. But imagine what they're using your data to do. They are playing you like a marionette, maximizing, manipulating you to make sure you play the game longer. If you're the type of person that buys microtransactions, they're going to use that data against you to make the game more difficult. At this point, I'm just done with EA. This is disgusting, and if anybody else is up to it, I hope it gets leaked too, because that's it. This is too far.